Couple items. First of all, if any of you passed by the table up front as you came in and you didn't receive a program, I welcome you at any point right now, probably a good time during my remarks, to get up and head over so that you have a program with you. And if you didn't get one on the way in, for sure get one on the way out, please. And we have extras if for any reason the table is empty. Secondly, I want to thank David Luddington and our jazz band for performing as everyone came in. It sounded great. So let's begin. So first of all, my name is Bob Hardis. I'm the superintendent of schools. I want to welcome all of you to our 12th Gallery of Success induction. And in particular, I want to welcome and congratulate our 10 new inductees. And I also want to welcome and thank all of their family and friends who came here today to be with us. So thank you very much and congratulations. The Gallery of Success was initiated in 1985, and it takes place normally every 3 years. Currently, our gallery, which you see out in the hallway in our atrium as you come in, has 140 members. Now, nominees must meet certain criteria. They must be Beachwood High School graduates whose accomplishments since high school make them outstanding role models for our students. They must exhibit achievement and distinction in one or more of the following areas: leadership, service, humanitarianism, creativity, courage, and/or career contributions that have benefited others. And I think you'll see that many of our inductees, our 10 new inductees and those on our board, hit the mark across many, if not all, of those criteria. Inductees are selected by a committee representing a cross-section of the Beachwood community. Members of that selection committee include alumni, previous gallery inductees, community members, current and former teachers, staff, and current students. I served with 17 other members of this Gallery of Success selection committee, and I want to tell you they were a thoughtful and they were a dedicated group. To all of them, and many of them are here today, I want to thank you for the service that you have provided to our school community. So thank you, selection committee members. Thankfully, many previous inductees have joined us today also, and I want to thank them for being with us, and I want to recognize them as well. Please stand, as you're able, when I read your name. Pete Cimarroni, James Crosby, the Honorable Judge Francine, or Frankie, Goldberg, Barry Minoff, Carol Rivshin, Enid Rosenberg, wife of our new inductee, Dr. David Rosenberg, the only married couple in the gallery, at least for now, Joel Soloway, and Daryl Young. Thank you all, previous inductees, gallery members, for being here. And in addition, importantly, I want to also recognize the presence of Judy Marks Fant, former Beachwood School Board member and the person responsible for starting the Gallery of Success. If you check out the gallery, you will see that her plaque is also included on the wall. She was awarded an honorary Beachwood diploma by our Board of Education and then inducted into the gallery. And she is attending today as the guest, I'm sure very proud, of her son, new inductee, Robert Marks. So thank you, Judy, for being here, and thank you for starting the Gallery of Success. To all of these folks I've just named, thank you for coming home to Beachwood. This is a very important occasion and one we are finally so glad to host again after a 2-year delay. There are a number of guests that I want to welcome who have come to recognize this event with us. The Honorable Judge K.J. Montgomery, Mayor Kathy Mulcahy from Orange Village, our former Beachwood Mayor, Council Member, and School Board Member Martin Horwitz, former Beachwood Superintendent Paul Williams, as well as former Superintendent Rich Marquardt, to whom I owe a huge debt of gratitude for the support and trust and mentorship he provided me during my first 9 years working in Beachwood. So I would also like everyone here, please, to join me in welcoming our current Board of Education members, our President, Megan Walsh, Vice President, Jillian DeLong, and members Kim Allenby, Josephine Chan, and Wendy Leatherberry. They're all seated right over here. Thank you all. Thank you to our Mayor, Justin Burns, and our City Council President, Alec Isaacson, Vice President Eric Sinnenberg, and our council members, Danielle Schoikert and Josh Mintz, a council member, former school board member. Thank you all for being here to mark the occasion with us. Thank you for listening to all the thank yous. A few more. I really want to say thank you to my admin assistant, Julie Felder, for her support of this day, to Brian Koss and all of the facility staff for your help with today's logistics, which happened all through the day. And though I'm sure she's not in here, I thank Ms. Lucy Duhame for today's delicious catering, both the breakfast and the lunch. And finally, have to pause and offer tremendous thanks to our Gallery of Success coordinator, Paula Rollins, 1971. Paula is a 1971 Beachwood graduate, and she has been our faithful coordinator of this event for many, many years. And I hope what all of you recognize, particularly those of you who have been to multiple inductions, I hope you recognize how hard she works to respect the history of the Gallery of Success and to make sure that the selection process is fair and it's effective for those of us who serve on the committee. And she also, that goes back years now, and here we are today, she works incredibly hard to make sure and takes great pride to ensure that today's festivities appropriately honor our inductees and are worthwhile and inspiring for our students. She has been unbelievably patient as she waited for this induction. I'm sure it really killed her to wait so long, because if you know Paula, things happen. So I'm really happy for her that this day has finally come, and I want to offer a tremendous thanks to you, Paula. Where are you? I don't know. She probably worked right there. Thank you, Paula. Okay, the 12th Induction Class's selection committee read 30 nomination packets, but selected just 10 amazing inductees. These 10 people exemplify success in multiple ways, as I read before. So students, those of you who are here in the auditorium with us, and those of you who are in your classrooms watching this through live stream, please listen, please learn, and take the opportunity to talk to these inductees later today. Stay in touch with them after today. You may form a meaningful connection that continues long after today's induction. And so now, let me please welcome to the microphone our Board of Education President, Megan Walsh. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hardis. Good morning, everyone. It is such an honor to be with all of you today to recognize 10 individuals who exemplify the mission of the Beachwood City School District, which is to develop intellectual entrepreneurs with a social conscience. It may be short in words, but it is long in meaning. As I read the biographies of each of the inductees, I was struck by how uniquely different each one of you are. Your paths may have all started right here in Beachwood, yet each of you charted your own course to make significant contributions to our world. Not only are you an inspiration, you are a reminder that over the course of our district's history, whether for the class of 1967 or 2004, as our community has grown and changed, we as a school district have continued to do what we set out to do. Where we have been, our history, and where we are important to keep in focus as we strive to get where we're going. When I found out I would be giving remarks today, one of my first thoughts was to reach out to my predecessor, Dr. Brian Weiss. No, not to ask him to borrow any of his jokes, but as a Beachwood graduate himself, a parent of 4 Beachwood graduates, and a Beachwood Board of Education member for 17 years, I wanted to hear what the Gallery of Success means to him. Reaching back to carry our history with us, not so that we can stay the same, but so that we can build on what we've learned and accomplished, will carry us forward and ensure we continue to achieve our mission. I thank each of our inductees for being part of our history, our present, and I invite you all to be part of our future. And now I have the privilege of introducing Leah Sokol, Student Council Executive Vice President, as the next speaker. Thank you.
Each day, as Beachwood High School students enter the school, we pass the plaque-lined wall made up of the portraits and statements of numerous alumni recognized for their achievements. While we pass by this wall each school day, many students have yet to examine the wall and explore the stories of these passionate and courageous individuals. Whether they be architects, attorneys, entrepreneurs, teachers, or anything in between, each individual inducted into the Gallery of Success has a unique narrative. While these people have followed different career paths, have varying backgrounds, and have faced unique experiences and obstacles throughout their lives, they have all been successful in their distinctive ways. While their stories differ significantly, the inductees each share a common passion and courage to make a change and help others. The success of these individuals is not measured by their IQs, how well they did in school, nor by the career paths they chose, but their successes are measured by their substantial efforts to take action and make a difference. As high school students, it can be difficult for us to comprehend the potential we have to make a difference in the world. Living in what is commonly known amongst the students as the Beachwood bubble, we feel sheltered from the world around us and comfortable within our community. While these are not necessarily bad ways to feel, it is important that we recognize our ability to reach beyond our familiar surroundings and make an impact on the world. Each individual being recognized today was once a Beachwood student like all of us. While they followed very different paths throughout their lives, they each understood their ability to make an impact on the world. They left their comfort zones to selflessly and diligently take action to make a change. Success stems from the courage and desire to create change. To be successful, you must have the courage to take whatever action possible to reach your goal. You must recognize and accept that failure is inevitable along your path to success, and if you persist nonetheless, you will succeed. Each of us has the ability to be successful. Looking at our eager and driven student body, I am confident that all of you have the ability to make a difference in the world. And I know in years to come, many of you will be inductees in the Gallery of Success. Next time you pass through the plaque-lined wall in the atrium, I urge you to read the stories of Beachwood's courageous and passionate alumni. And I urge you all to use the opportunity to speak with the inductees this afternoon at the meet and greet in the cafeteria. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Brooklyn Bennett, and I would like to introduce Fran Weingast-Boloff, who graduated from Beachwood High School in 1967. Fran is being inducted into the Gallery of Success in recognition of her teaching and subsequent legal career representing the disabled and marginalized, her extensive volunteerism, and her leadership of the Validation Training Institute, an international nonprofit organization teaching caregivers effective communication with older adults experiencing dementia-related cognitive loss. At this time, I would like to invite Fran to say a few words.
Thank you, Brooklyn. You've given me a taste of what assisted living might feel like. I'm so grateful to be standing here today to accept this honor after a 2-year COVID-imposed delay. Thank you, Aaron Buloff, for marrying me and giving me your last name, which moved me up today from the back of the line to the beginning. Wow, I'm finally here. Imagine the original audience was supposed to include then BHS seniors who are now halfway through college. For me, the long wait has made today even sweeter. Now I can finally thank in person those who wrote letters sponsoring my nomination, voted for me, and are viewing these induction festivities in person or virtually, high out there in cyberspace. Their support means so much to me. I'm also delighted to join 4 others from my class of '67 and add my name to the 4 guys from my old bus stop at Edge Hill and East Braintree, previously inducted. My tomboy skills as a fast runner with a good snowball throwing arm never failed me then or now. As the child of Austrian refugees who spoke heavily accented English and the first in my family to be born in America, hard work was simply expected of me, and failure was not an option. My father died suddenly just weeks after we moved to Beachwood in 1956. Fortunately, I had a strong role model in my mother, who was a survivor of both the Holocaust and the unfamiliar culture in the United States. I know she would just love this today, particularly the fact that I'm mentioning her. The Beachwood schools were still brand new to all of us. I was in just the 7th graduating class at this high school. What we lacked in school traditions, we made up for in creativity and spunk. We were smart enough to see opportunities to make our families and school proud. And we were eager to make our marks, even if we didn't know what would come of our efforts. For example, to my everlasting surprise and delight, the BHS literary magazine I created and named Introspect as a junior still exists after 55 years. You just never know what impact even a simple gesture can have on others. When I was voted the female student most likely to succeed by my 1967 class, I wondered in disbelief, why me? What do they see in me? I was not the class valedictorian. I was not going to an Ivy League school. I was going to a Big Ten university on a scholarship which included part-time work. Nothing sexy about that. As I stand here today, more than 50 years later, flanked by honorees with incredible accomplishments, I ask again, why me? In attempting to answer that question, I'd like to put it another way. Why not me? Or you, students up there? At this point in your lives, you, like me, in 1967, don't know what challenges and opportunities lay ahead. We have all experienced recently the social isolation of the pandemic. And we have learned even more to value community and human connectivity. Sometimes we have to look beyond ourselves to grow as individuals. It may be connecting with a community which fuels your own growth. In my case, in 1989, my classmate Carol Rivshin, a prior inductee and the person who nominated me for this honor, connected me with a nonprofit organization called the Validation Training Institute, which provides unique person-centered communication training for caregivers of elderly people living with dementia. At the time, I was juggling work as an attorney, raising 2 young children with my husband, and trying to manage my own mother's dementia decline. I joined the volunteer board of VTI and later became its president beginning in 2010. I have watched it grow internationally with training centers now in 13 countries and extensive online resources available in 9 languages. Last year, I wrote 40 blogs for VTI, which were posted on social media. I was asked to write them to keep up morale in the worldwide community of dementia patient caregivers who were facing the challenge of their lives, working in memory care facilities or keeping their loved ones at home during the pandemic. I don't know exactly who read those blogs or who they helped, but they inspired me to keep writing. So, if I can offer you any advice, it's this. Look around you right now. Use your own skills to try to make a difference right here in Beachwood, and then engage actively in your next community. Who knows what impact you can have? Right now, success may seem to be measured by high grades, top test scores, trophies, and awards. But life will offer you so much more. Don't think less of yourself if you are not accepted to your top college choice or a popular social clique. Rather, think about all the ways you can reinvent yourself to be the person you really want to be, starting this minute. After all, the seeds you plant today may still be flourishing over 55 years later. I hope my story inspires you to stand on this stage one day and add your name to the BHS Gallery of Success. Thank you.
Welcome. My name is Alice Anastas, and I would like to introduce Eric Desatnik, who graduated from Beachwood High School in 1997. Eric is being inducted into the Gallery of Success in recognition of his successes in the fields of strategic communications and public relations, and for his dedication to leveraging film and mass media to raise global awareness of important environmental and conservation causes. At this time, I would like to invite Eric to say a few words.
I'm not in the business of talking about myself. As someone who works in public relations, I'm in the business of talking about others. I share other people's stories, and through sharing these stories, it's helping shape my own. I shared the story of my former boss, Anusha Ansari, who as a child growing up amid the Iranian Revolution, dreamt of going to space, despite the turmoil around her. She would sneak off to a nearby hilltop and fall asleep watching the stars. All of her childhood drawings, which she saved, were of her sitting in a rocket on her way to space. Against all odds, she emigrated to the United States, worked her way through college, founded a tech startup, became a millionaire, and then in 2006 became the first private female space explorer, spending 8 days on the International Space Station. I shared the story of Elon Musk and his initiative to bring literacy to young people in remote parts of the world where they have insufficient access to schools or teachers. And the story of the late former First Lady Barbara Bush, who was committed to finding innovative solutions for the 36 million adults in the U.S. who don't have beyond the equivalent of a third grade reading level. I shared the story of Richard Branson and his trips to the Gulf of Mexico to swim with whale sharks to draw attention to the fragile ecosystems they inhabit. And the story of former NBA star Yao Ming and his decision to publicly come out against the consumption of shark fin soup, a Chinese delicacy that costs the lives of tens of millions of sharks every year. I shared the story of a tattoo artist from Las Vegas who developed a more efficient way to clean up after oil spills, testing the early prototypes in his bathtub. And the emergency room doctor and his brother in Pennsylvania, who at their kitchen table developed a handheld medical diagnostic device similar to what we'd see in Star Trek. And the story of the fourth-generation Montanan who developed breakthrough pH sensors to better measure ocean health, despite living nowhere near an ocean. His friends had to bring back jugs of seawater after trips to the coast so that he could do his testing. And the 15-year-old Jack Andraka, who after a close family friend died of pancreatic cancer, took to the internet to learn as much as he could about the disease and ultimately developed a non-invasive way to detect it far earlier and more accurate than existing methods. I also shared some non-human stories. I shared the story of Kanengo, a 3-week-old African elephant whose mother was killed by poachers and who was taken in by an elephant orphanage in Nairobi. His handlers had to feed him from a bottle while standing behind a large sheet pinned to a clothesline to replicate the shadow his mother would have cast. And they couldn't work more than a 3-hour shift to avoid Kanengo becoming too emotionally attached to any single one of them. And the story of Luna, a young killer whale who was found alone off the coast of Canada, separated from his pod, analogous to finding a human baby left alone in the woods. Luna was so desperate for companionship, he developed a years-long friendship with the people who lived there and instigated a high-profile battle between people who argued over what was best for the whale. I tell stories, it's what I do. But sometimes the storyteller becomes the story. I'm here today because someone felt my story was worthy enough to share with you. I'm here because of a list of awards and accomplishments, job titles, and fancy degrees, but there are other chapters and characters in my story that you won't find in my bio, but that have been just as influential in bringing me here today. There's the story of Miss Duminal, my Hilltop GT teacher, I don't know if you guys still have GT, who taught me to appreciate storytelling, whether it was reading from the mixed-up files of Mrs. Basil Lee Frankweiler or her lesson on Greek mythology. There's Mrs. Rudder, my English composition teacher freshman year of college, who taught me how to actually write. And then there's the story of my Hebrew school teacher, my 8th grade math teacher, and my high school French teacher, all of whom kicked me out of class. There's the story of my high school classmates who voted me as the most likely to be inducted into the Gallery of Success. And there's also the story of those same exact classmates who voted against me in every single student council election throughout high school. There's the story of my family for consistently showing up for me. For every soccer game, even though I sat in the middle of the field and refused to play. For every karate meet, even though I sat on the mat and refused to participate. For every school play, even though I was just playing a doorman or a tree. Every piano recital, parent-teacher conference, bake sale, graduation, and even this. There's the story of me spending a summer living as an exchange student with a family in France when I was 13, and the 51 other countries I've adventured through since then. And the story of how, while with that family in France, I refused to eat anything but baguettes for the entire summer. There's the story of my Aunt Harriet regularly watching Jeopardy with me, and there's also the story of me trying out for Jeopardy 3 times and not making it. My story is unconventional, my story is nonlinear, my story is choppy, my story is genre-less. I've tried to live my life less if it was a prescribed or pre-written story with an expected plot, and more as if it's a choose-your-own-adventure. I try not to be concerned about the reader of my story and whether my life choices make sense to others or fits their preconceived notions or expectations. Instead, I live with a deep appreciation for the agency I have as a writer of my own story. And if someone wants to share my story or even honor me for it, that's humbling, but I've got a lot more to write. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Alyssa Murphy, and I would like to introduce Sophia L. Hall, who graduated from Beachwood High School in 2005. Sophia is being inducted into the Gallery of Success in recognition of her courageous legal advocacy on behalf of women, people of color, immigrants, individuals living with HIV/AIDS, and other underserved populations experiencing discrimination and inequities at work or in their community. At this time, I would like to invite Sophia to say a few words.
Good afternoon. Thank you to the Beachwood community for this tremendous honor, and thank you for the incredible amount of time and effort that went into making today's events a reality. Even a pandemic couldn't keep down a bison. To the students in the audience, my name is Sophia Hall, and I am a class of 2005. So not very long ago, I sat precisely where you sit. I was excited for the future that I thought I was beginning to figure out. I can say with an honest heart that I didn't really see the present reality coming. When I started college at Emory University, I didn't know that I would attend law school, and I didn't know that I'd become a lawyer. Several years later, when I graduated from Boston College Law School, I didn't know what kind of lawyer I wanted to be, and I didn't know that I would become a civil rights lawyer. I didn't know that the not-so-distant battles that I had read about in African American history class and Black literature classes would become my battleground. I didn't know that I'd be in the trenches. I didn't know that the contentious election of 2017 would manifest in a wave of hate that would demand that I fully committed to zealous advocacy for people whose civil rights and civil liberties were just being trampled. As I look back now to when I sat where you sit, I would tell my younger self that life is long. Life is really long. Standing steadfast in one version of yourself and that version of your future can cause you to miss an unimaginable reality. So maintain an open mind, be nimble, dream big, and always be ready to pivot. And I know that's a big ask, because for many of us, particularly students of color, children of immigrants, and first-generation students, we don't always have a path that's laid before us. And we don't always see ourselves reflected back in our mentors, in our peers, or even our heroes, which makes imagining opportunities hard. But you should embrace it. Embrace that as an opportunity to forge your own path. My life feels made up of one challenge after another, and the way that I face and overcome those challenges creates a new version of my reality. With every new challenge, I get an opportunity to make a difference in the lives of people. The clients that I serve and the injustices that they have suffered demand that I rise to the challenge and be nothing short of courageous. So, as I face each new challenge and I question whether this time I'm going to rise to the occasion, I always ask myself two questions. And I would encourage each of you in the audience, students, to ask yourselves these questions. If not me, then who? And if not now, then when? So one more time. If not you, then who? And if not now, then when? Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Ariana Preston, and I'd like to introduce Judson A. Klein, who graduated from Beachwood High School in 1968. Judson is being inducted into the Gallery of Success in recognition of his successful career in architecture, his volunteerism at the school and community level, and his local and national leadership in organizations dedicated to architecture and design, and as a champion of sustainability, equity, and educational engagement. At this time, I'd like to invite Judson to say a few words.
I'll get there. Good morning.
Thank you very much to the committee, to the school board, to all of the people that have contributed to my being here and receiving and being inducted into this wonderful group. I want to particularly congratulate my classmates in this year. It's been a long road to get to this moment. Most of us didn't believe it was even going to happen. Every time Paula would send a communication, I would immediately write back, "Are you sure?" And it turns out it worked out, and we're here today. So again, thank you very much. I want to talk a little bit about legacy. I think that's really an important part of what we do. It's the legacy of the future, for the future that we are building. I'm an architect, and I have been for nearly 50 years. When I retired from the private architectural firm where I was a partner and principal, I discovered architects don't retire, they redesign. I came to appreciate that we are the legacy of those who came before us, provided us an example, and shaped our lives. To that point, I want to relate a story of a conversation I had with my son, who's in the audience, who's also an architect, incidentally, when he was a student at Kent State University's Florence studio. He had just arrived in Florence with his class to begin studying in their wonderful facility over there. And he calls me in the morning. It was 6 o'clock in the morning here, 12 noon in Florence. And I answered the phone and said, "Hi, Brandon, it's good to hear from you." He said, "Dad, guess where I'm at?" I said, "Well, I hope you're in Florence. That's where we sent you. And you can't be out of money yet. You just got there." "No," he said. He went on to say, "Guess where I'm really at? Guess where I am standing at this moment?" And thinking for a moment, and having been to Florence myself several times, I considered what might be the single most impressive and influential place for a young architectural student. And I thought for a second. I said, "I know where you're at. You're standing in the Laurentian Library on stairs that were designed and crafted by Michelangelo." And he said, "Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at." He said, "But guess what I learned by being there?" And I said, "Okay, what's the lesson?" He said to me, "I realized I am the legacy of this work and need to learn from it and pass it on to the successive generations." My response immediately was, "Who are you? What'd you do with Brandon?" I then told him that this is what I'd hoped that he would learn in the time frame that he would be studying over there. And he got it on the first day. I said, "Now you have to go out and learn the details." My career has been about legacy. In that regard, I need to thank my mother, for as a teacher of young children for many years in Beachwood schools, she exampled the lessons I've embraced and now share. Quite honestly, she ought to be up here, but for the fact that she wasn't a graduate of Beachwood High School. Nevertheless, I'm sure she would be very proud of all the people that she influenced over her career as a teacher here in Beachwood, for those who are also up on the wall. I also learned from my peers. I now teach my children, my grandchildren, and others to build the preferred future that we all want to see. To that end, I spent the first third of my life building my capabilities, my skills, my career, and the second third building my firm and organizations that I felt were important and needed to be part of. I now spend my time building the next generation. I support and spend a lot of time in teaching and working in schools because I think it's important. Therefore, drawing from the words of Sylvan Kamens and Rabbi Jack Reamer, when we have achievements based on theirs, we remember them. I am grateful and acknowledge my wife Cheryl, who incidentally was my prom date in 1968, my daughter Missy, my son Brandon, my daughter-in-law Christy, and grandchildren Brody, Lexi, and Casey. They're inspiring, and they give me opportunities to explore what I want to teach them. I've written a book that I shared with them called Learning from Grandpa's Cheese Barn. Thank you to my brothers John, Jim, and their families, my sister-in-law Barbara Roman, her husband Rick, and Cheryl's parents, Gladys and Ray Klein, But most importantly, I need to recognize my parents, Ginny and Larry Klein, and grandparents Everett and Ruth Loeb, along with Judson and Ruth Klein, who've profoundly shaped my life. I think in 5 generations, and we all need to think about life in those terms, the 2 generations that came before us, those who taught us what we needed to know to survive and to learn and to live and exampled the way we should be, and the 2 generations that come after us, our children and our grandchildren, and the world that we leave to them for their future. So let me leave you with a few words that I believe will guide whatever it is you choose to do with yours. And you have a world of opportunities, and today more than ever we need your involvement in them. First of all, read as much as you can, and not just blurbs and stuff on the internet, but read books. Books are where ideas come from. Books are where your vocabulary will come from. That's essential to communicate your ideas. Always carry a notebook or sketch pad and a pen, which I always have on me, because that's where your ideas will blossom and incubate. That's where your ideas and language will develop. Write them down and save them. I have hundreds of little notebooks scattered all over the house with ideas, and every once in a while I remember, well, there might be something back there I need to look at. And finally, and this is the toughest one to do, look at the world with inquisitive eyes. Question why things are the way they are and how they got that way. And what would you do differently to make a difference every day? Thank you for this exceptional honor. I appreciate it greatly. I'm glad it actually has happened. And thank you and congratulations to all of the rest of you. For those of you who will come behind us and those who have come before us. Bye-bye.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rebecca Gips, and I would like to introduce J.B. Lurie, who graduated from Beachwood High School in 1998. Jay is being inducted into the Gallery of Success in recognition of his integration of business, public policy, sustainable development as a financier of global infrastructure projects that address public challenges including access to electricity and water, climate change, food security, traffic congestion, and affordable housing. At this time, I would like to invite Jay to say a few words.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's an honor to be sharing the stage with the fellow inductees today. I have been at 2 Gallery of Success inductions, 1994 and 97, sitting as the students are in the auditorium today. And I remember thinking, these people are impressive, but they're also old. How would they possibly relate to me? So I checked the archives. It turns out that more than half of the inductees in those years were younger then than I am now. Doesn't exactly help my case. But I thought of a word that might relate to some of the students, and especially the seniors, and thought I'd spell that out to address some guiding principles that have helped me in my time post-BHS, and maybe could serve as guideposts for you. That word is apply. A for adapt. I've done more than my fair share of moving over the years, and each time gets a little bit easier. Developed a skill that allows me to take a new job, meet new people, move to a new place, to adapt, and to that skill helps build success in new environments. For you, these last 2 tumultuous years, you've experienced a new medium for learning and living that, while very trying, has helped build your character for when you choose or not to move schools, change majors, change jobs, move cities, whatever turn your life might take. You've already adapted. You can surely do it again. A for adapt. P for people, P for planet. Because of the challenges our world faces, urban-rural polarization, wealth disparity, climate change, environmental degradation, among others. Your success is tied to that of your neighbor. These issues affect everyone. I encourage you to travel and get outside of your comfort zone, whether to another school district or another country. For me, when I've gotten exposure internationally and even to other neighborhoods in my own city, it's really encouraged me to work on improving livelihoods beyond my four walls in my community. I'd encourage you to take paths in whatever career path you choose, even some that don't exist yet, where you can contribute to the people and planet around you. It's those paths, I believe, that will be the most rewarding for you and for society. P for people, P for planet. L for longevity. Similar to what my fellow inductee Sophia said, life is long. You are at the beginning of what society deems the three-part life: education, work, retirement. I would argue that that framework doesn't quite fit with our current population makeup. Life expectancy is longer. When you finish school, you'll have the productivity to work for the next 50 to 60 years. Can you imagine doing that nonstop? I surely can't, and I'm not. I'm actually on a break right now from the 9 to 5. Charting your own path doesn't necessarily only mean a different job function or a different place to live. It can also mean taking more time, going back to school to learn a new trade, accelerating at some points, decelerating at others. You'll need to take breaks to unplug, unwind, to be able to re-energize and make yourself as productive as you can be. You don't need to figure it all out right away, and it's okay to reroute along the way. L for longevity. Finally, Y for you. When I was just a year out of college living in New York City, I lost my job. And rather than going right back into the job market, I decided to make one of the first among several investments in myself. I booked a flight down to Ecuador, did a Spanish immersion program living with a family and taking intensive Spanish courses. And that investment would pay dividends some 14 years later when I was offered a job to focus on infrastructure investments in Latin America. I encourage you to make these types of investments. The earlier, the better. They'll last much longer and be more valuable than anything you can buy online or in a store. It's these investments that make you uniquely you. It could be a class outside of your comfort zone or your major. It could be a foreign language, a musical instrument, a new art, a coding language, sport, hobby, whatever it may be. It'll add to your perspective. It'll make it more robust both at home and at work. And to the extent that you get more exposure, per my earlier comments, those investments will come in handy along the way. Why for you? So at the risk of saying the word that I know the seniors don't want to hear ever again, apply. Adapt, people, planet, longevity, and you. As a final note, just to like to thank a few people, and I know that I've been talking a lot about doing work outside of the community, but really the work that is being done inside this community by Paula Rollins, the selection committee, and all of the public servants that you've heard from today, it's truly invaluable, and I'm very grateful for all the work that you've done to get us here today. To my teachers, several of whom I saw this morning, and it really choked me up to see people that helped shape my perspective and provided me the building blocks that I still tap into every day. To my parents, sister, extended family who supported me throughout my K through 12 time here at Beachwood, forever grateful. To my fiancée, Rachel, for sharpening my words and adding a spring to my step. To my lifelong friends from the class of '98, many of whom are here today, I'm going to quote a movie, Stand By Me, that when you are eligible to see rated R movies, I highly recommend, from the narrator. I never had any friends later on in life like the ones I had when I was 12. Geez, does anyone? Look around. I know that sometimes growing up in a small community can offer its certain challenges, but in addition to the elements of apply, should you choose to embrace them, I hope that, like me, you can embrace those deep personal connections, some of which you don't even realize yet, that may guide you in your future as they have thus far for me. Thank you so much.
Good morning. My name is Kimia, and I would like to introduce Robert Marks, who graduated from Beachwood High School in 1984. Robert is being inducted into the Gallery of Success in recognition of his self-made success as an entrepreneur in the internet and telecommunications industries, and his long time and continued community service, especially on behalf of Beachwood Schools' many school support organizations. At this time, I would like to invite Robert to say a few words.
Thank you. 23 years ago, I am working at one of the largest companies in the world. My career is going great. So great that my wife can do what she wants to do, which is stay home and raise our small children. I have a very happy wife. And there's absolutely no reason to mess with that. So, I'm at a business lunch with a colleague, and for whatever reason, an idea just pops in my head. Now, one thing I know about myself is if I do not write this idea down, it will be gone as quickly as I came up with it. And students, we do not have smartphones back then. So I borrow a pen from the waiter, I grab a cocktail napkin, and I quickly write all these ideas down. I take the napkin, I put it in my pocket, I even forget I did that. Later that night, right before bed, I'm emptying out my pockets, and I see that cocktail napkin. And I look at it, and I'm thinking, that is actually a pretty good idea. So I figure I should go downstairs, sit in front of my computer for 5 minutes, put it there so I do not lose it. I sit in front of my computer for 10 hours. I pull an all-nighter, which was not the first time I've done that. And at the end, I have built my initial business plan. And I really like this idea. I spend the next 3 months working on this idea, and eventually I get to the point that I love this idea, and I want to build this idea, which would mean I would have to quit my job and start a company. And when you start a tech company, there's about an 85 to 90% chance it is going to fail. And if I do that, I could be putting my entire family's future at risk. So I need to speak to my wife. And this is how that conversation goes. I want to pursue this dream. It means I will have to quit my job. We will have no income. We will have to cut back, possibly for years. We will wipe out all of our savings. We will stop funding our retirement. We will stop funding our kids' college education funds. We will absolutely lose our health care coverage, and there's a really good chance that this will fail, and we will put our entire family's future in jeopardy. Now, what's great about my wife is she says exactly what she thinks, exactly as she thinks it. And she looks at me and she says this. She says, okay, I believe in you. That's it. So, my wife believes in me, I believe in myself, and I go for it. And with an idea written on a cocktail napkin, we built one of the greatest companies, startup companies, in the history of this region. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Leah Sokol, and I would like to introduce Aaron D. Marks, who graduated from Beachwood High School in 2002. Aaron is being inducted into the Gallery of Success in recognition of his courage and persistence to overcome addiction and his steadfast efforts to assist others suffering from substance use disorder, with schools, the community, and law enforcement, and to raise awareness and eliminate stigma. At this time, I would like to invite Aaron to say a few words.
Thank you. It's funny because I have a written speech because we need a written speech. I normally just say whatever comes to my mind, so it's actually harder for me to read from a speech than just to talk. All right. It really is. It's truly an honor to be here. It's surreal, but it's an honor. I think if you would have asked anyone who knew me when I was a student here, will Aaron Marks one day be inducted into the Gallery of Success? 100% of them would have said no. So this is the point in the speech where I'm supposed to say that I'm not the same person that I was back then. But guess what? I am the same person that I was back then. I'm the same person who barely passed his classes, the same person who was suspended multiple times, the same person who had to leave school to take classes in a secondary program in order to graduate, the same person who had run-ins with the law, the same person who skipped school to drink and use drugs, the same person who was completely lost, but thought that I had it all figured out. So how am I here? Why am I here? I'm here because I was fortunate enough to receive the treatment and care needed to become healthy. I was lucky enough to have a loving and caring parents who made sure that I was able to get the best treatment and support possible. Just think about that. Just really let it soak in. Because without that support, without proper medical treatment, without resources, I'm not standing here. Everything I do today is centered in the belief that everyone, regardless of their actions, where they're from, how much money they have, the color of their skin, whatever, anything, deserves the same level of support and care that I've been afforded. This is what drives my actions. Don't get me wrong, I'm proud of myself. I look at my accomplishments with honor and pride. I have done a ton of work. I have given countless hours. I have no problem patting myself on the back. But to make this all about me diminishes this moment. This should be about all of us breaking through the stigma surrounding mental health and substance use disorder and addressing how we view and treat our fellow human beings. If you come spend some time at Stella Maris, which I invite you all to do, the coffee shop is open to the public, you'd be able to witness firsthand how having a place that treats you with dignity and respect and provides top-notch treatment transforms people's lives. Everyone deserves that. So just a little message to the students. I see you. I really see you. Please know that there are people who really care about you and want you to be happy and healthy. If you find yourself in a dark place, reach out your hand. If someone slaps it away, don't retreat back into the darkness. Find another person to reach your hand out to. We're out here. For all of us, if you have friends or family who are struggling with mental health or substance use issues, be there for them. It can be frustrating. There's no guarantee it's going to work out, but be there for them. Be there for each other. It's up to us to clear the path for more people so that they can go on to do great things as well. Thank you for doing your part to break the stigma. Let's keep moving forward.
My name is David Kwong, and I would like to introduce David B. Ostro, who graduated from Beachwood High School in 1975. David is being inducted into the Gallery of Success in recognition of triumph over challenge, spirit of service, relentless work ethic, strong moral code, and financial acumen leveraged to benefit the Beachwood schools, the Gathering Place, and Temple Emmanuel, and for professional achievement at Parker Hannifin Corporation. At this time, I would like to invite David to say a few words.
Thank you, David. And good morning, everyone. My hearty congratulations to each of my fellow inductees, and a special thank you to everyone that recommended me for this honor. I am humbled to be recognized by this school district, which has meant so much to me in so many ways. I want to take just a moment to express my love and appreciation for my wife, partner in life, and best friend, Hermine, my two incredible sons who nominated me for this wonderful honor, Stuart, class of '04, and Zachary, class of '06, my two daughters-in-law, Allie and Caroline, and the youngest joys of my life, grandchildren Sophie, Molly, and Reuben. And by the way, before I proceed, I would be remiss if I didn't wish Allie a very happy 35th birthday today and thank her for letting me steal just a little of her spotlight. My comments this morning will not be in the form of a traditional speech. Rather, I would like to offer a few thoughts for you to consider. My hope is that you will take away even one enlightening idea or new perspective. In 1998, Gordon McKenzie published his book, Orbiting the Giant Hairball, a guide to achieving in a large corporate environment. It includes what is likely the shortest chapter in literary history. Its 8 words have influenced me in a profound way. In totality, it reads, Orville Wright did not have a pilot's license. There was an individual whose name is known to every person in this room. He failed in business twice. The love of his life died when he was 25. He suffered a nervous breakdown at age 27 and dealt with periods of deep depression most of his life. 2 of his 3 children predeceased him. He lost 8 of the 12 elections he ran in. By any measure, this man might be characterized as a tragic figure, if not an outright failure in many respects. It was strictly his keen ability to persevere that led Abraham Lincoln to greatness. Intelligence is defined as the ability to apply knowledge, to manipulate one's environment, or to think abstractly as measured by objective criteria. We have software now that's intelligent, the I and AI. So intelligence by itself is not a final human goal. Consider what is defined as the following: an ability to discern inner qualities and relationships, to have insight and good sense. These are the concepts that breathe life into one's ability to improve the human condition. What, you ask, is this higher goal to strive for? It's wisdom. Thomas Edison is probably considered the greatest inventor ever. Larger than life, and someone who seemed to almost magically conjure ideas out of thin air. Yet, he stumbled over and over again, often tremendously. He once said, "I have not failed 10,000 times. I have successfully found 10,000 ways that will not work." On a trip to Alaska, I learned that if confronted by a bear in the wilderness, your greatest chance for survival is to do the exact opposite of what your instincts tell you. Don't show fear, and don't, under any circumstances, turn and run the other way. Instead, stand firm. Wave your arms furiously high and wide. Make loud, frightening noises. Make yourself big. Let the bear think long and hard who it's dealing with. When Hermine and I were on safari, I learned the following ancient African proverb that has really stuck with me and has proven to be true in my personal, civic, volunteer, and professional lives. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. If you love the Broadway smash hit Hamilton, you'll likely recognize the following selection, which speaks to me in a profound way. Legacy. What is a legacy? It's planting seeds in a garden you'll never get to see. Over the years, I've recognized that people forget what you say, and people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you make them feel. In closing, I'd like to invoke King George VI, father of England's current Queen Elizabeth, and subject of the movie The King's Speech. Like me, he was a lifelong stutterer, and consequently thought of as unable to rise to the challenge of leading his nation at what was surely its darkest hour. Against the odds, he triumphed magnificently. His perspective, spoken at that time of great personal challenge, as both a leader and an individual, is the thread that weaves together everything I've referenced this morning. He said, "The highest distinction one can strive for and achieve is being of service to others." Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Elizabeth Liu, and I would like to introduce Dr. David M. Rosenberg, who graduated from Beachwood High School in 1966. David is being inducted into the Gallery of Success in recognition of his leadership and contributions in providing superior patient-centered medical care, his work as a medical educator, including for Beachwood High School students, and his service and efforts with various agencies on behalf of people in need. At this time, I would like to invite David to say a few words.
Thank you for the kind words, Elizabeth. I appreciate it. When I was first nominated for the Gallery of Success, I was so excited. I quickly sat down and made some notes about what I would share about my own path to success. That was over 2 years ago. But 2 years ago feels like a different lifetime for all of us, right? It would be an understatement to say that each of our lives has changed significantly over the past 2 years. All of my original notes seem in some way irrelevant today. But instead of talking about my own path to success, I'm going to admit something to you. I have found the changes over the past 2 years to be really hard. I am a physician with clinical expertise in internal medicine, lung disease, and public health. With all this training, I was well positioned to understand all facets of COVID-19. But you see, it doesn't matter how much I knew, how prepared I thought I was. When the pandemic brought COVID to our footsteps, the changes I needed to make in my daily life and my medical practice seemed at first to be insurmountable, because change itself is really hard. Regarding this, I have another admission to make. Believe it or not, the hardest change I've endured over the past 2 years has nothing to do with the pandemic. Over the past 2 years, I've experienced a significant decrease in my ability to walk with ease, to climb a flight of stairs, or even ascend the podium with confidence in my footing. I was born with an hereditary condition which gradually decreases my ability to effectively use my hands and feet. In other words, I have known for decades The time would come when I would lose significant mobility and dexterity. But when I actually had to face these changes, it was still really hard. I'll tell you a quick story. About a year ago, on a nice sunny day, I thought maybe I could still play golf. Unbeknownst to me, as I lined up my stance, the dimples on my Titleist golf ball smiled widely, knowing they had no fear of being struck. On my backswing, not only the grip loosened, the club went flying, but I lost my balance and fell to the ground. It was not a good moment for me. Thankfully, the only injury sustained that day was to my pride. But I knew, after all those decades of waiting, it was time for change. Not only to give up golf, but begin using a cane on uneven ground and the elevator recently installed in our house, the thought of which seemed like an admission of defeat. I share this with you to highlight, no matter how prepared you might think we are, change can be difficult. However, and this is a big however, the ability to accept and adapt changing circumstances is critically important in continuing to move forward in this world. Change often breaches your comfort zone, producing anxiety. And anxiety, whether it manifests as a headache or an upset stomach, does not feel great. But anxiety that comes with the need to change can be a signal from your brain telling you that there is a potential for opportunity, an opportunity to step back, take a few deep breaths, survey the situation, think critically, creatively, while problem solving. After my faithful golf outing, I took this approach. It took a bit of time, a number of deep breaths, and some days to clear my head and not to feel sorry for myself. While I was forced to change because of my physical limitations, I decided to use change as a springboard of opportunity to excel in different areas. For me, opportunity came outside my regular practice in starting the UH COVID Recovery Clinic to care for long-haul COVID patients who continue to have symptoms long after their initial acute illness. Developing an educational platform pertaining to COVID to teach community doctors how to care for these often complex patients. Acting as a community resource to help nonprofits with pandemic-related health and safety concerns. And recently joining the board of the Greater Cleveland Food Bank with the hope of developing programming and research surrounding food as medicine during this unprecedented times of food insecurity. In other words, I have repurposed my physical limitations as an opportunity to help others in many different ways. And I know that I'm not the only one who needed a pivot over the past 2 years. Each of you pivoted quickly to adopt new ways of learning as school systems evolved to create safe learning pathways. It wasn't easy, but you did it. In the future, when we are faced with a change that feels insurmountable, let's all remember that change is really hard, but we have done it before, and we can do it again. As you face your own future changes, I will continue to face mine. Let's continue to exercise our ability to deal with change as the key to unlocking future opportunity. And let's also try to have some fun as we go. I, for one, swapped my old boring black cane with one bearing the Ohio State insignia. I call him Brutus. Brutus makes me feel a little bit cooler. Talking about cooler, my next move may just be a Porsche 911. Not to cruise the streets, but a souped-up electric wheelchair sculpted as a beautiful sports car. I'm thinking cherry red with a black row bar. Now that's an opportunity I can look forward to. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sama Khan, and I have the pleasure of introducing Emily Yar, who graduated from Beachwood High School in 2004. Emily is being inducted into the Gallery of Success today in recognition of her impactful, award-winning journalism, covering pop culture and the entertainment world, everything from music to television to celebrities, as well as her commitment to giving back to a new generation of journalists.
At this time, I would like to invite Emily to the podium to say a few words. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So when I was in high school, I loved country music. But this was something I didn't really like to tell a lot of people. Honestly, I was afraid they might make fun of me. So many country songs chronicle beautiful stories of life and loss and love, but others just have lyrics about why a singer really likes their tractor. I was worried that because I enjoyed these songs, people would judge me, but eventually I just decided to embrace it. I never imagined that my love of country music would lead to anything career-wise. But years later, after I majored in journalism and got a job as an assistant at the Washington Post, eventually working my way up to pop culture reporter, I realized that country music doesn't really get covered outside of Nashville. So I started writing everything, from investigative pieces to deep dives into the industry to profiles on singers. It was also the reason I once got to have a fascinating conversation backstage with Taylor Swift, who started as a country singer, at her sold-out stadium show in D.C. Writing about country music is one of the most fulfilling things I do at my job, and I never would have been able to do that if I was too worried about what others would think about the fact that I like country music in the first place. As someone who's written about entertainment for the last 14 years, I love hearing what other people are listening to or watching or reading, and I strongly feel that you should never apologize for your taste in pop culture, especially because no one should ever make fun of you for something that brings you joy or gives you an escape, whether it's a movie or song or book or game, or that new reality show on Netflix called Is It Cake?, which, by the way, is pretty entertaining. But also, it's because you truly never know where your passions will take you. Not worrying about what others think is one of the most valuable lessons I've learned. I know it's a lot easier said than done, especially in high school. But sometimes what one person doesn't like about you is something that will really impress someone else. After my freshman year in college, I interned at the Cleveland Jewish News, and I was so excited that I got to take what I learned working here at the Beachcomber and in my college classes and apply it to the real world. But when I got back to college in the fall after a great internship, one of my advisors was not impressed. She said that I really needed to get an internship at a daily publication, and it was unlikely that would happen after I spent a whole summer working at a weekly Jewish paper. I was devastated by this, but ultimately just decided to ignore it. I applied to other newspapers and got an internship at a daily paper in Kentucky. It was one of the best experiences of my life, and at the end of the summer, I asked the internship coordinator why she had hired me out of all other candidates. She said, "Well, I saw your resume, and I thought it was really interesting that you had worked at a weekly Jewish paper." I think about that a lot because when you're young, what your teachers or any authority figure thinks of you means so much. And it can really be easy to hear no from them or come across someone in charge who just doesn't really seem to get you and assume that's just it. You're done. Your path is over. But it's just never true. It's so important to take these rejections and use them to fuel you towards something better. One of my favorite stories I've ever written was a profile on the late-night TV host Conan O'Brien, and he has a quote that I've seen quoted many times on Instagram that I truly believe. He said, "If you work really hard and you're kind, amazing things will happen." Obviously, there's a lot more that can go into that as you're trying to achieve your dreams. I have been so lucky to have an amazingly supportive family who told me I could be anything I wanted, and a circle of friends and loved ones who have been just as excited for me, whether I was writing obituaries or writing about the weather or writing a front-page story about Will Smith slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars, which I just did last week. But those ideas of hard work and kindness can take you really far. Ever since I got the call that I was being inducted into the Gallery of Success, which I was at work and my ecstatic reaction bordered on embarrassing, I've thought a lot about the idea of success and what it means. I also got that call more than 2 years ago, before our lives were completely upended by a global pandemic, which caused a lot of us to reevaluate everything. But through the chaos of the last several years, I think the basics remain true. Find something you love, throw yourself into what you love, and don't let anyone ever tell you it's not worth doing. Thank you.
So I have to tell you that I couldn't be happier right now. And because this event reminds me, number one, of how much I love the Gallery of Success. To be honest, I forgot. It's been 5 years. And I want to thank all of our 10 inductees. Each of you said something that resonated with me, has an impact and connects to me. I hope that the same is true for everyone in the audience, for what I've just experienced over the last hour, which is truly, you've inspired in me a lot of energy, motivation, and a feeling of optimism and responsibility, and I can't thank you enough for it. And it's a great reminder to me of why we do this. And so, again, I hope that everyone has felt the same thing that I have today. And Paula, thank you for keeping us motivated to do this. I'm back in my role of thank yous, I guess, again. So that's what superintendents do. We have meetings and we say thank yous. What I had written down was to thank our inductees for their words today, but more importantly, their deeds. I hope I've just done that, because it's your deeds and the way you delivered, the way you talked about them today that was so inspiring to me. Thank you. I want to thank everyone who watched on our live stream. Thank you for doing your part to mark this important milestone in our school's history. And I think we probably will all agree that the next time we host this event, I look forward to everyone being in here and off of a screen. Thank you all very much.